Did you know that only 2.5% of the Earth's water is fresh? And out of that percentage, 60% of it is found in the polar ice caps. However, one our community issues how harmful the oil industry is to the environment. We're going to do this by Antonella talking about the disadvantages and advantages of pipelines. I'm Jay. I'm going to be talking about the coax pipeline in general, and then Vincent's going to be talking about the environmental effects. We're going to start off by Antonella talking about the advantages and disadvantages of the pipelines.
So, why do we have pipelines? There are pipelines all over the United States to transport natural resources such as water, crude oil, and natural gases. There are some advantages and disadvantages for the use of pipelines. Let's start with the advantages. Pipelines benefit the country economically. Using this method of transportation will cost a lot less than any other options. For example, oil production is already very expensive, so one of the cheapest ways to transport it is through the pipelines. It saves the government those extra millions of dollars. Pipelines also benefit employment. Since oil production and the natural resource industry is so big, there are many jobs available because of it. If it were all to shut down, many people would be unemployed. Lastly, pipelines are an easy way to transport these natural resources. They are a fast and flexible way to store and transport. Moving on to the disadvantages, I'm going to start by talking about how pipelines are very unhealthy for the environment. Pipelines erode and contaminate the soil. The soil is an important thing to keep clean because it can lead to many other environmental issues such as acid rain. Also, water can be impacted by these pipelines. According to Tim Williams in the Infrastructure Research Division, an herbicide is used to maintain clearing around the pipelines, which then contaminates the water. Water is also contaminated by the erosion and leak problems the pipelines cause. A social disadvantage of these pipelines is that they are somewhat dangerous. Any sort of leak can cause any type of destruction. One of many incidents due to pipelines was in Brandon, Mississippi on January 14th of 2015. According to the WAPT News, a gas pipeline exploded and destroyed 6 acres of land, leaving a big crater in the land. These are some advantages. Many incidents that are a harm to society can be caused by pipelines. There are some advantages, but many more disadvantages that society should be aware of because of pipelines. Now we are going to have Jay talk about a more specific pipeline, the DAPL.
The Dakota Access Pipeline is a 1200-mile pipeline that runs through North Dakota and runs all the way down to Illinois. According to Energy Transfer, there are 2 main reasons why we're building the Dakota Access Pipeline, due to how high our demand for oil is and economical reasons. U.S. alone is the number 3 producer in the world. We roughly produce about 7.5 million barrels of oil per day. And it doesn't just stop there. We're also the number 1 importer. We roughly import about 7.7 million barrels of oil per day. The pipeline was proposed to decrease our foreign demand on oil and be more economical in transporting than truck or rail. The pipeline itself will carry 600,000 barrels of oil per day, and this is nice because it's half the current production rate in the Bakken Peninsula. Not to mention how much more marketable this will be, considering the shippers can get the oil directly from the oil tank fields in Patoka, Illinois. There's many other economical benefits besides the pipeline itself. This pipeline will create 12,000 new local jobs, will positively impact local businesses, including restaurants, motels, and hotels, and also generate $55 million in property taxes, which will help fund schools, emergency services, and roads, which we all can agree that we need more better of these. All these economic benefits seems really good until you hear the consequences. Yes, it's exciting that the oil industry can transport 600,000 barrels of oil per day, but think how highly pressurized this system has to be in order to do this. What would happen even if there was just a small leak? Not to mention, this pipeline crosses Missouri not once, but twice, which would result in contamination not just in a fuel area, but nationally, affecting millions of people's drinking water. Another thing is we're trusting the oil industries, which they have a proven unsafety record in doing so. This brings us to our next point, which Vince is going to talk about, is the environment.
Okay, so our planet has reserves of oil and gas trapped beneath the surface. Occasionally these crack and oil will come up, but this is just a small amount and it's pretty natural and not dangerous to the environment. This isn't the case with human interaction with oil. When you extract and transport oil state to state, spills and pipeline failures are inevitable. Oil spills from pipelines coat everything and become long-term damages to the environment. After extensive cleanup, scientists verify that there is still 26,000 gallons of oil trapped in the sand of the Alaskan shoreline from the Exxon Valdez oil spill in 1989. According to the official conservative energy website, this spill killed up to 500,000 seabirds, and not to mention all of the other land animals near the site. Oil harms living things because it is poisonous to them, whether it be ingested or inhaled or outside of the body, like on the eyes or the skin. It can completely smother small fish, and it's especially harmful to birds and mammals because of their feathers or their fur, because it coats them and then it hinders their homeostasis or their ability to maintain their internal body temperature. With birds too, it can weigh them down completely and stop them from flying or possibly drown them. And birds, when they preen their feathers to get the oil off, they'll actually be ingesting the oil, and that's another way that it can kill them. About 75% of our oil is used for heating and fuel. We're so heavily reliant on non-renewable resources that we forget that there's alternatives. Wind, solar, and electric are the main rivals of oil, but these, although they're not as widespread, they are 100% green. So what I mean by green is that they don't harm the environment. There's not as many negatives to them. And politicians and others in the pocketbook of big oil and scientific deniers want us to believe that green energy is a silly liberal pipe dream, but this just isn't true. According to the Solar City Journal, it would take 11,200,000 acres for the US to be completely powered by solar energy, which sounds like a lot, but the US is 1.9 billion acres, so this is actually only 0.6% of our land, and that's all it would take for 100% clean and renewable oil. So no spills, no killing wildlife, no contentious debates over sacred land, just good clean oil and good clean energy and lots of jobs, not a little. We reached the moon 7 years after JFK called us to do so, so with the same ambition we could eliminate our dependency on oil. Realistically, I don't think any of us can single-handedly overthrow the oil industry and convince everyone to invest in green energy, but there are a number of ways you can limit your dependency on oil and reduce carbon footprint while investing in green, responsible energy. So in review, Antonella talked about pipelines in particular, Jay talked about the Dakota Access Pipeline, and I talked about environmental effects. Although there are economic advantages to pipelines, the oil industry is harmful overall to the environment, and there are just cleaner sources of energy. You can take easy steps towards a greener future. You can carpool, bike, maybe even buy a solar panel. As Dennis Weaver said, we don't have to sacrifice a strong economy for a healthy environment.